I didn't knock. I had the keys. It was 4:46 p.m. on a Thursday in April 11th. I remember the time because I'd just stopped by Kenmore Grocery on 12th and paid $17.80 for eggs, tomatoes, and the coffee my daughter-in-law likes but never buys. My coat was still zipped. The grocery bag hung heavy on my left wrist when I turned the knob and pushed the door open. They hadn't closed it fully. I heard her before I saw either of them. Don't let her come to her senses. Transfer it this week. Her voice was low but not whispering, as if she knew I'd walk in but didn't care if I heard. Or maybe she was hoping I would. I didn't move. My fingers tightened around the plastic bag. Something sharp, maybe the edge of the egg carton, bit into my skin. I didn't say anything, just listened. My son's voice came next. She's soft. She'll do it if we keep her comfortable. I could have said something, slammed the door, dropped the bag, made a scene, but I didn't. I stepped back, let the door creak open the rest of the way, and walked in like I hadn't heard a word. They both turned. My daughter-in-law gave me that trained smile, the one with no warmth. "Oh, you're back early." My son didn't even pretend to be surprised. He just reached out to take the bag. "You look tired, Mom. Want me to make you some tea?" I looked at both of them and said nothing. My coat stayed on. My hand left a crease on the paper receipt still in my pocket. "Don't let her come to her senses." That's what she said. "I ask you if we're family. Why is my clarity a threat? Carol, my old friend who works at the bank, told me once, watch what people do right after good news. That's when their mask drops." She was right. I hadn't even told them yet, just hinted I might have inherited the 3 farms and the old beach house. That was enough to trigger the plan. And still part of me felt stupid. Stupid for coming in with groceries. Stupid for thinking the coffee meant something. Stupid for not seeing it sooner. I should have caught it that time she insisted on helping organize my drawer where I keep old tax files. I thought she was being helpful. God, I hate that I thought that. I didn't tell them I heard. Not yet. But I took the coffee out of the bag, placed it on the counter, and said, "Let me put these away first." And as I reached into the fridge, I tucked the receipt into the cabinet drawer next to the freezer, just in case. Because next time they ask me to sign something, I'll remember exactly when they stopped pretending. My son pulled out a chair for me. I didn't ask. He even dusted it with his sleeve like we were in some hotel lobby. The same chair I sit in every day. Then came the tea. "We used your favorite," my daughter-in-law said. But it wasn't. It was peppermint. I drink black. Always have. She knows that. It was April 12th, 7:18 a.m. I'd barely sat down when he slid a plate over to me. Pancakes. Toast. A little too much syrup. I hadn't had breakfast made for me since maybe 2004, after my hip surgery. I ate it, but I didn't taste anything. It was like chewing through a favor I never asked for. They were calling me Ma more than usual, smiling too wide, offering to help me with things I've always done myself. She offered to sort my mail. He offered to drive me to my next doctor's appointment, never mind that I've had the same Camry since 2011 and drive fine. I nodded, said thank you. But something in my chest felt heavy, like I was being wrapped in gift paper just so they could rip it open later. At 8:03 a.m., Carol texted me, "You still want me to come by Saturday to review that insurance folder?" I replied, "Yes. Come earlier if you can. Because if they're suddenly this helpful, it's not help, it's rehearsal. You ever notice how we're just trying to help only comes after they find out what you have? If it's really help, it doesn't come with pressure, or positioning, or sticky syrup smiles. I'm their mother, not their project. And if it's family, why does it suddenly feel like I'm being managed?" I made eye contact with my son after the third ma. He looked away. My stomach turned. I hate that part of me still hoped it was love. I hate that I smiled back. I hate how quiet I went. I stood up, said I needed to check something upstairs. My voice didn't shake, but my hand brushed the table too hard. The fork fell. No one moved to pick it up. In my room, I didn't check anything. I just sat there coat still on watching the window. And when Carol called back at 9:41, I answered on the first ring. I turned the light on at 2:17 a.m. My hand fumbled a little. I knocked over a pill bottle trying to reach the switch. Didn't even blink. I sat up, swung my legs over the bed, and just stared at the floor for a while. The room was too quiet. I could still hear her voice from yesterday like it was stuck in the drywall. Transfer it this week. I pulled the file box out from under the bed. It's the same brown plastic one I've had since we bought the Buick in 2009. That folder still had the receipt from the dealership, $19,180 after trade-in. We paid in full. No loans, no cosigner. And now, here I was, trying to remember if I ever signed anything that gave them power over my name. The will was still there, dated, but unsigned. Power of attorney blank. I checked it 3 times. No signature. I exhaled, but not all the way. I was close. Too close. All it would have taken was one moment of tiredness, one just sign here, Ma, and it'd be done. My land, my name, my say gone. They say it's just paperwork when it's not theirs. And if they really think of me as family, why do they act like time is running out? Carol had warned me way back in February. She said, "The moment they know you've got something, they'll move faster than grief." I laughed then. Now I just feel stupid. I kept reading every document like I was waiting for a trapdoor. And for a moment, I felt ashamed, not because I didn't trust them, but because I ever did. That's the part that gets you. The shame. Not the trick, the permission you gave it. I folded the unsigned forms and slipped them into my purse. The blue one. The one with the tear on the strap that I never fixed. I'll bring them with me to Carol's this weekend. Quiet. Before I turned the light off again, I asked myself something I hadn't dared all day. If they love me, why are they racing me? I still didn't have an answer, but the next morning, I didn't pretend to forget. I sold my wedding ring in the fall of 2006, October 19th. I remember because the pawn shop across from the post office gave me $380 for it. Not much for gold even then. I didn't haggle. I needed the money by Friday to help him with the down payment on a used Toyota Tacoma. His first truck. He was 19. Said he didn't want to ask his dad. Truth is, he didn't have to ask me either. I just did it. I worked at the school office back then. 32 hours a week, no benefits. I made extra money typing medical transcripts in the evenings, blurry-eyed in front of a borrowed laptop. When the power bill hit $312 one December, I paid it late and told him I'd lost the envelope. He never knew. Or maybe he forgot. People talk about sacrifice like it's noble. It's not. It's just quieter than the thing you're covering for. I still remember the day he walked in with that truck, smiling ear to ear. "Ma, I got it. I signed everything myself." I said nothing. Just nodded. I didn't say the registration had my name on it too. The insurance. On my policy. He didn't read the fine print. Just took the keys and drove off. Carol once asked me, "Why don't you remind him?" And I said, "Would it change anything now?" But here's the thing. If I don't remind him, he gets to believe the story that suits him. If he paid for everything, then I'm just a backup plan. But if he didn't, then why does he keep calling it his inheritance? If it's truly his, why am I still the one holding the deed? Sometimes I wish I'd said no more often. Maybe then he'd remember the yeses. But I was scared of pushing him away. Scared of not being needed. And now, I'm scared of how easy it was for them to forget. I looked down at my hands this morning while folding laundry. Still bare. I haven't worn a ring since that day. But the laundry's done. The debt's paid, and the title's still mine for now. Sign this when you're free, Ma, she said, sliding a manila folder across the kitchen table. Her nails were freshly done red with a chipped corner, and she pushed the papers toward me with 2 fingers, like it was nothing. I was still peeling an orange. 2:12 p.m., Friday, April 14th. The smell of bleach from her morning mop job still lingered in the house. I didn't touch the folder. I didn't blink either. I just nodded like I hadn't noticed the label on the front property transfer, draft. No questions, no warning. No mention of lawyers. Just this quiet little trap tucked in between sliced fruit and pretend kindness. Oh, it's just draft language, she said, pouring herself iced tea. Nothing binding. We can tweak later. I looked at her glass. It was mine. One from the old set my sister gave me in '96. I never said she could take them out of the china cabinet. I flipped the first page with 1 finger. My name, their names, parcel numbers, automatic transfer clause. No mention of return rights, no condition. Just clean surrender. Neat legal theft. I asked, "Did you have someone draft this?" She blinked once. "Oh, Andrew helped. His cousin's a notary," I asked again. "So if I don't sign, then what, we're not family anymore?" She smiled too quickly. "Ma, it's just to make things smoother. Smoother for who Carol stopped by that afternoon with a bag of peaches." She took 1 look at my face and said, "What happened?" I showed her the folder. She didn't even read all the way through. Just said, "That's not smoothing. That's slicing." I said I'd talk to them. She shook her head. "No. Let them talk first. Just don't sign." Not yet. And the worst part, I almost did. I really almost did. Because a part of me still believed that if I gave them what they wanted, maybe they'd love me like before. That part of me needs to sit down and shut up. I smiled at dinner. Told them, "Let's go over it together tomorrow. I want to make sure I understand everything." She looked a little too relieved. So I made coffee, watched them eat, and waited. Because next time she slides a paper, I won't be the one pretending. I stood outside the office on Monday, April 17th, 10:06 a.m., staring at the buzzer. My hand was shaking, not from cold. The building hadn't changed. Same brown trim, same chipped railing. But I hadn't been here since Earl passed. The last time I rang that buzzer, I was holding his death certificate in a manila envelope. "Come in," the voice crackled. The door clicked. I didn't say much at first. Mr. Dunley just motioned for me to sit. Same tie, different day. He opened my file. "You brought the drafts they gave you." I nodded, pulled them out of the blue purse with the broken zipper. He read silently. 1 page, then another. Then he closed the folder. "It's aggressive," he said, "and invalid unless you sign it." I stared at the carpet. Tan with some greenish pattern. I used to hate that carpet. Now it felt like neutral ground. I asked, "Everything's still under my name?" He looked up. "Every parcel, every deed, every right." I swallowed. "And if I died tomorrow?" He didn't flinch. "Then it passes how you set it up. And right now, that means not to them." He slid a red folder across the desk. "Update your will, add a clause. And don't delay. If they're rushing you, it's not out of care." I nodded, but I couldn't lift my hand yet. My fingers stayed curled in my lap. He noticed. "You okay?" I exhaled through my nose. I almost gave it to them. Signed without checking. He didn't say I was foolish, just said, "Now you didn't." And I hate this. But part of me still hopes my son doesn't know how far this went. That maybe it was just her. But then I hear his voice in my head. Just make it easier for everyone. And I realize he's only gentle when I'm useful. And if this is really about just family, then why did they prep documents? Before a conversation, I stood up, took the red folder with both hands, and didn't let go. Dunley nodded. Keep that somewhere they can't reach. I walked out slowly. No one texted to ask where I'd gone. I left the red folder on the dining table at exactly 4:12 p.m. Tuesday, the April 18th. Didn't hide it, didn't mention it. Just laid it next to the fruit bowl and sat down with my Sudoku book, like usual. My daughter-in-law came in with that voice she uses when she wants something light sing-song. "You organizing papers again, Ma?" I shrugged. Can't remember where I put the insurance stuff. I watched her eyes flick down to the folder. She didn't open it, not right away, but her hand rested on it like it belonged to her. My son walked in 5 minutes later, still wearing that navy polo he's had since his job at the dealership. "We thinking about next steps?" he asked, nodding at the folder. Not even pretending anymore. "I haven't read it yet," I said. "Don't know what's what." He pulled out a chair. "We can walk through it together. Vanessa already went through the draft again last night." That's when it clicked. They'd already decided. This wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what I was stalling. Vanessa leaned against the counter. "It's just practical, Ma. We're not trying to pressure you." I didn't answer. She added, "It's all about keeping things in the family." I looked at her then, just once, and said, "If that's true, why does it start with me signing things, not with us talking?" They both went quiet. Then she smiled. "Tight. Careful. It's easier this way." "Easier for who?" That's when Carol called. I stepped out to the porch and answered. "They pushing again?" she asked. I said, "They're not pushing anymore. They think they've already won." She didn't pause. "Then let 'em keep talking. Let 'em say too much." She was right. I went back inside and played dumb. Tilted my head when they explained terms I already knew, asked what irrevocable meant like I'd never seen a will before. Vanessa glanced at my son and whispered, "We should get her to sign before she snaps out of it." I looked down at the table, nodded slowly, and said nothing. Tomorrow, I'd call someone who wasn't bluffing. Carol pulled up at 10:06 a.m. in her old silver Subaru. I made 2 mugs of coffee black for her, half and half for me, and set them down in the kitchen like it was just another Tuesday. I didn't tell my son or Vanessa she was coming. I didn't need to. They saw her, and suddenly everyone got polite again. "We were just going over some paperwork with Mom," Vanessa chirped. "You know, keeping the estate clear, clean, efficient." Carol nodded, didn't smile. "Sure," she said, settling in at the table. "Just here for coffee." The folder was already on the table. My son reached for it. "Ma, remember the deed we talked about? We added a few things, just updates." I sipped my coffee. "Which part?" "The part about transferring the C house," he said like it was a lunch order. Carol raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. Vanessa opened the folder and slid a pen toward me. "If we get it notarized today, it'll save time later." Carol's voice cut in, dry. "You need a notary." Vanessa blinked. "Only if Ma's ready." "Let's hear it out," I said. "Which clause gives me lifetime occupancy?" They paused. Then my son stammered. "Well, technically, you wouldn't need to live there anymore, Ma. It's just easier if it's fully transferred." I looked at him. "So I give up what I built, and I'm not even guaranteed a room." He shrugged. "You'd be welcome anytime. It's family." "Then why does your first sentence come with a pen?" Carol didn't even finish her coffee. Just sat still, watching. Later, when they stepped outside to discuss, I looked down at the signature line. My hands didn't shake this time. But something inside me pulled. Not anger, shame. That I'd come this close twice. That I almost made it easy for them to erase me. Carol didn't say a word on the way out. But she saw enough. The next call I made was to someone with court experience. I pushed the red folder forward at 3:41 p.m. on April 20th. It made a soft thud on the dining table, the kind you only hear when paper's been stacked too neatly. "Here's what I'll be signing," I said. and my voice surprised me by staying even. No shaking, no edge, just flat. Mr. Dunley was already seated at the end of the table. Carol sat beside me, hands folded, eyes forward. My son reached for the folder like he always did, confident. Vanessa leaned in, ready with her pen. I slid my phone out instead and placed it face up. One tap. Her voice filled the room clear as day. Don't let her come to her senses. Transfer it this week. The room went quiet in a way that felt physical, like the air got heavier. Vanessa stood up too fast. That's taken out of context. I didn't argue. I asked if it's out of context. Why were you rushing me? My son opened his mouth. I kept going. If you can manage the properties yourselves, why did you need my signature before a conversation? He said we were trying to help. I looked at him. Help who? And since when does help start with a pen? Mr. Dunley cleared his throat. Just one sentence. Given what I've heard, any transfer today would be improper. That was it. He didn't lecture. He didn't need to. I felt something tug at me, then not victory. Guilt. I hated that I still worried about losing Sundays with my grandkids. I hated that a part of me wanted to rewind the last week and pretend none of this happened. I hated that I waited this long to draw the line. They called it just paperwork. I said more to the room than to them. I'm calling it a line. I closed the red folder and pulled it back to my side. My son stared at the table like it might explain him. Vanessa stayed standing, arms crossed, jaw tight. No one apologized. No one reached for the pen. I picked up my phone, slid it back into my purse, and stood. Tomorrow, I'd decide what stays and what doesn't. I made coffee for one at 7:42 a.m. on April 21st. The kitchen felt too big. I sat at the end of the table, not the head. Just the end. No footsteps. No fake cheerfulness. No "Ma want eggs." Just the hum of the fridge and the tick of the wall clock. I didn't call them. I didn't explain. The documents were updated. The farms, the house by the sea, even the small patch behind the barn, they stayed in my name. Mr. Dunley had a new copy of the will by 11:15 a.m. I kept the original in the lockbox at First National. Donna, the branch clerk said as she handed me the key, "Keep that close. You've got good instincts now." I nodded. But that one word now hit me harder than she meant it to. Because I didn't before. I let things slide. I believed smiles that didn't match their timing. I ignored how quick they shut down when I walked in. That wasn't instinct. That was wishful thinking. I wasn't proud of that. I stared at my own handwriting on the new documents. Clean. Firm. Not shaky like the first draft they had pre-filled. This one didn't have their names in bold. This one didn't assume I was done deciding things. When people say, "But we're family," I've started asking, "So why does your love require my silence and my signature?" Carol stopped by just before noon to return a sweater. I left in her car. She looked around the quiet house. "Peaceful," she said, then softer, but heavy. I nodded. "I lost the table," I said. She didn't ask what I meant. She just squeezed my hand. Maybe one day I'll miss Sunday dinners. Maybe I already do. But the land is still mine. The memories are still mine. And so is the right to decide what comes next. I opened the window. The field looked the same, but I didn't.